Good evening. I'm Kate Campbell Stevenson, Board President of the Maryland Women's Heritage Center. Our mission is adding her story to history to tell our story. Welcome to tonight's special program featuring our 2025 Women's History Award winner, Arianie Dey. To continue our program, I'm introducing you to our Executive Director, Diana Bailey.
Good evening, all. It's great to see you, and thank you for coming and being a supporter. And I think, as you may have seen in the announcement and invitation, the proceeds from tonight's event goes to our award winner for 2026, um, the Women's History Award that we sponsor. So we're excited about that. We're also waiting for we have a guest that's coming with us tonight from Maryland Humanities, who's been a partner with us for a long time. She indicated she was having a little bit of technical difficulties, so I'm glad to see everyone else here. And I want to especially welcome Ariana's family, who have come out in a great number to support her in the presentation this evening. If Stephanie Boyd comes on later, I'll circle back to her. She is from Maryland Humanities. But I wanted to say a little bit about the Maryland History Day, of which this is how we met Ariane and many other students who participate statewide. And there are all kinds of presentations and research projects and throughout the social studies department across the state. One of the reasons I particularly like this event, besides the fact that we all love women's history, it's a fabulous teacher event for many, many people. And with that, Stephanie is just joining us, so I'll let her add, when she can get settled, I'll let her add a little bit more about History Day before we go ahead. But the Maryland Heritage Center has been a supporter of Maryland History Day for many years, so we were thrilled to be a part of it in 2025, and we've recorded all of those research achievements by our past students, and you'll find those on the website. Stephanie, I'm so glad that you were able to join us. If you can unmute, would you like to say a couple words about Maryland History Day?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Diana. I really appreciate being invited tonight and for all the work you've done to support Maryland History Day. So I'm Stephanie Boyle. I'm a program officer at Maryland Humanities. In addition to the programming that we're going to talk about tonight, we also do lots of other work. We're a grant funding organization. We do literature programs as well as traveling Smithsonian exhibits and Maryland History Day, which is what I get the pleasure of running. It is a program for middle and high school students to do long-term project-based history programming. So a lot of work goes into this, and I'm always just so impressed by the students and the breadth of topics. Anything you can think about, they have done research in, and I think it's such an important skill that they're learning, and something that certainly can be applied to college, but really just applied to life. How do you critically analyze sources? How do you think for yourself? How do you form your own opinions around different areas? And so hopefully those skills are something that just are really meaningful to our students throughout life. And I am particularly partial to this award. I think looking at the support of women's history and having it particularly support our high schoolers who just do really top-notch work in their research projects is so excited. So thank you for having me with you tonight. I'm looking forward to learning as well and celebrating these students, and just thank you all for your support. And I hope you really see the value in what you are supporting tonight as well.
Mm-hmm.
Thank you, Stephanie, for coming. We appreciate it. And we appreciate all the work that Maryland Humanities does in our region and across the state, and in particularly History Day. And that is a huge undertaking for months, let alone the huge event that it is at UMBC for their culminating activity. But with that, I'm thrilled now to finally introduce you to Arianie Dey. We met her at the culminating activity. And when I was so thrilled, because sometimes the the award winners can't stay because they come from the Eastern Shore, from wherever they are, so they have to leave earlier. But this time I actually got to meet her and her mom in person, and so it was exciting for me as I think it was for her. So she's a junior, incoming junior at Urbana High School in Frederick, and she has worked on a lot of school projects and a lot of history projects. So like this was just the culminating activity for her work with the Maryland Women's History Heritage Center. So congratulations to you again, Ariane, for being the winner of the 2025 History Day Award for Women's History. And with that, I'd like to turn it over to you to talk all about your person.
Thank you. So good evening, everyone. My name's Arianie. I'm truly thankful for you all being here tonight, and I'm so excited to have this opportunity to express my student voice and to share my work and experiences. My heartiest gratitude to Maryland Humanities for supporting the National History Day program and for giving students the opportunity to explore history in meaningful and creative ways. Thank you to my advisor, Ms. Erin Spar, my parents and my grandparents for their continued support throughout the process. I mean, I've always been interested in history, and it's been really incited since childhood thanks to the stories I hear from them. I'd also like to extend my thanks to Mrs. Bailey and the Maryland Women's Heritage Center for sponsoring this special award for excellence in women's history and for organizing this event. It truly means a lot to me. Shirley Chisholm once remarked that the gender stereotyping of women begins with a simple declaration, "It's a girl." And from that moment, women are met with barriers created by society. These are obstacles that could limit their dreams, their opportunities, their potential. For centuries, women lived in a world dominated by men, where their voices were silenced, their rights were denied, and their roles were confined to only motherhood and service. Yet some refused to accept those narrow expectations, and among them was Belva Ann Lockwood, a determined lawyer, educator, activist, and politician whose courage challenged the very foundations of an unjust legal system. Lockwood's early life was far from easy. She was born in 1830 on a farm in upstate New York. She had limited access to formal education, and at a time when higher learning for women was rare, she fought to attend college, eventually earning her degree from Genesee College. Her work as a teacher and later as a principal opened her eyes to the inequalities that women faced, not only in education, but in nearly every aspect of life. She believed that women deserved the same intellectual and professional opportunities as men and began dedicating her life to achieving that vision. Her ambition led her to Washington, D.C., where she sought to study law. She married Ezekiel Lockwood, a Civil War veteran whose thoughts were more pioneering than society's at that time. Although she applied to several law schools and universities, she was repeatedly denied admission solely because she was a woman. After persistent lobbying, she was finally accepted into the National University Law School, which is now part of George Washington University. But even after completing her coursework, this university refused to grant her her diploma. Unwilling to accept defeat, she wrote directly to President Ulysses S. Grant, who was also the university's president at the time, demanding her rightful degree. Her determination paid off, and she received her diploma in 1873. However, the battle for equality didn't end there. When she applied to argue cases before the U.S. Supreme Court, her request was denied yet again because of her gender. Instead of accepting this injustice, Lockwood turned her rejection into action. She drafted and lobbied for a bill that would allow qualified women lawyers to practice before the Supreme Court. Her tireless advocacy and strategic persistence led to the passage of the Lockwood Bill in 1879, which was a groundbreaking moment in legal history. In 1880, she became the first woman ever admitted to argue before the U.S. Supreme Court, forever changing the landscape of American law. She ran for president twice, once in 1884 and once in 1888, which was a time when many women in America still weren't able to vote. She famously said, "I cannot vote, but I can be voted for." Her campaigns weren't just about winning. They were about sending a message that women deserved a seat at the highest seat of power, the highest table of power. Her work inspired countless women to pursue law, leadership, and justice later on. Throughout my research, I was drawn to how Lockwood's story embodies the National History Day theme of rights and responsibilities. She understood that rights aren't given freely, that they have to be fought for, maintained, and expanded through responsibility, courage, and persistence. Lockwood's story inspires me through her unwavering determination to challenge injustice, even when every system was designed to silence her. Her courage to stand firm in the face of discrimination reminds me that true progress is built on persistence and conviction. As someone interested in law and leadership, she motivates me to uphold the rights she fought for and to continue breaking barriers for those who come after me. Although I had locked in on my project quite early, choosing the right category was a bit of a challenge for me. I felt comfortable doing documentaries, which is another one of NHD's categories, but this year I decided to come out of my comfort zone and try something new. My project, Breaking the Bar, was my first attempt at a historical paper for National History Day, and it definitely came with its challenges, but it taught me how to research better, and it inspired me to pursue leadership roles where I can express my student voice. I'm happy I chose to do that, and it was an amazing experience, and I'm really proud of my work and that it was able to be acknowledged at the state level. Using primary sources like Lockwood's own writing, my efforts to become a lawyer helped me connect directly with her voice and understand her unshakable resolve. Our world has sustained significant progress since Belva Lockwood's time, but our journey is not over yet. Although women have made profound legal and political strides through landmark policies such as the Civil Rights Act, the Equal Pay Act, and Title IX, these gains are far from secure. The overturning of Roe v. Wade has reignited debates over women's reproductive rights, with state bans and restrictions once again limiting our autonomy. Pay gaps and discrimination remain deeply rooted in our society as a whole. It is also disheartening that America, the land of the free, has yet to elect a female president. Even on the global stage, the US hasn't ratified the Convention on the Elimination of All Forms of Discrimination Against Women, which is an international treaty dedicated to protecting women's rights worldwide. This injustice is taken to even a symbolic stage when you consider Justitia or Lady Justice, which is our international symbol of court systems. While we revere her as a representation of fairness and impartiality, we still too often hesitate, rationalize, judge, and then question before choosing women over men for positions of authority. These hesitations stem solely from prejudice, rooted in traditional gender roles that have long defined what women can or cannot do. Women throughout history have fought, suffered, and sacrificed their entire lives to create just opportunities for future generations. Now the responsibility for advancing equality rests on the vigilance and effort of both present and future generations of women. Not only must they honor the sacrifices of past activists, they should also acknowledge and recognize their debt to those who fought before them. Belva Lockwood and countless other trailblazers didn't fight merely for recognition, but to make true justice a reality. And it's now our duty to ensure that their struggles were not in vain, that justice becomes a fundamental right awarded to all. As Martin Luther King Jr. once said, "We are not makers of history, We are made by history. The fight for equality did not end with our predecessors. No, it lives in us, the youth, who must carry their mission forward and keep breaking barriers until justice truly belongs to all. Thank you for listening. I hope that I can be back with you next fall with a new topic for this year. Thank you.
Ariane, thank you very much for your feedback. And I think you're seeing crowd reactions now. And we appreciate a lot of the work that went into this, and as you said, from a long time back. And we are, before I forget to say, we do hope to see you in the future or another application for Maryland History Day. So before we open it up to the floor for Q&A a little bit, I know some of this stuff you alluded to while you were talking about your research, but of all the people that you could have chosen, what was the thing that kind of really reeled you in to talk about Belva and to research her? What was the most important thing, do you think?
So the most important thing, well, I chose Belva Lockwood as my research topic because her story really represents perseverance, justice, and equality, and those are values that resonate with me. I mean, as I mentioned earlier, I've always been interested in law and how it shapes society, and I hope to one day become a Supreme Court justice myself. So when I learned that Lockwood was the first woman admitted to practice before the U.S. Supreme Court, I mean, I was immediately inspired by how she carved her place in a field that had at that time generally excluded women. And then her courage to challenge discrimination and her determination to create a lasting change for future generations really motivated me to explore that legacy further. Through my research, I came to see her not just as a trailblazer in law, but more as a visionary who redefined what women could achieve in positions of authority. And if you consider it, you know, the Lockwood Bill was revolutionary in that, I mean, when you think of the Supreme Court justices, um, the female Supreme Court justices today, the greatest ones, you get Ruth Bader Ginsburg or Sonia Sotomayor. Uh, they wouldn't have been able to even enter the Supreme Court bar without the Lockwood Bill, which is another source of intrigue for me.
You've hinted on this a little bit already, but um, do you know, I know her access to education, which was unfortunately pathetic, which was not uncommon at that time, but she again persevered and persisted. But do you think she started out? She obviously was a teacher for a while because she had to work because she had to work. But what do you think was the turning point of when she moved from educator, principal, and then to the law?
So I was reading her her writing, My Efforts to Become a Lawyer, and it seems that from a young age, she was pretty convicted to go as far as possible as she could with her life. Now, from what I read, there wasn't any specific area where she turned to legal advocacy or she wanted to go more into law. She just wanted to fight for women's rights. And I believe at that time, when she transitioned from, educator or principal to law, that was kind of the point where she wanted to that's where she found an opportunity to go into empowering women through that path.
Well, if you look around the room, our generation did not have a female Supreme Court justice until much later. So when we see the changes that have been made, um, that's a good thing. But we also are concerned about the Supreme Court's involvement in women's rights. And what do you think were her most important themes as a person engaged in the law in the early days, and then eventually to what other women's Supreme Court justices may have been attending to?
So I can mainly speak for Lockwood herself in terms of her own values. Obviously, she was very into empowering women, helping carved that path for more women in law to go into law in the first place. She did work at some point with Susan B. Anthony, I believe, while she was still in New York. Women's rights activist right there. She was kind of focused on making sure that equality was accessible to everyone and that it wasn't circumstantial. It was just something that's a constant. And she tried to embody that in her work, in how she interacted with others, and in the speeches that she gave. Yeah.
In some of the speeches or the writings that you reviewed or researched, do you see particular themes or area other than the ones you mentioned that will go to really strengthen her legacy in terms of supporting other potential justices, male and female?
I feel that that kind of really covers everything. Those were what she was talking about mainly, but of course, there's like little situations or circumstances that she might allude to in order to further her points in those topics.
Mhm. In her writings, did you see anything about, obviously she talked about women, but did you see an indication of her interest in diverse women or women with potential disabilities? I mean, she had a hard start when her husband died. She became an economic crisis, I'm sure. But did she talk some about um, the economic diversity and the demographic diversity at that time?
Um, I don't believe that I saw too much in the speeches that I read, at least, but I'm sure that she must have talked about it or alluded to it at some point. But one thing I can talk about for diversity is that one of her most famous cases in the US Supreme Court is the US versus the Cherokee Nation. Um, and that was a case where there was a settlement price for ceded land that was being disputed. Lockwood represented the Cherokee Nation, and after a lot of fighting and arguing in the Supreme Court, she managed to secure a $5 million settlement, which was one of the largest awarded to a Native American group for ceded land at the time.
Perfect example. Perfect example. Thank you. I think when we were having conversations another time where at some point after this presentation, I will send Ariana's full text. I have the link, so that will go out to those registrants tonight. But I didn't want to distract anybody by having that there because I wanted to hear her talk about it, talk about her relationship with Belva and also what she learned from that. So we've covered a lot of my questions, but now I'd like to do is open it up to our guests. If you'd like to raise your hand and ask any question related to Belva. Kate, do you want to start?
All right. It's exciting to do research. I do quite a bit of research on women in history as well. I was wondering if you could point to maybe one or two aha moments you had. What you found that really went, yes, this is why I want to, this is cool. This is what I really resonates with me. Is there are there one or two moments that you ran across in your research?
I would say that, like, overall, really, I kind of clicked with what she was talking about, but she definitely inspired me in that she never backed away from a challenge. Her adversities didn't define her, and she again turned that rejection into motivation. Uh, re- in anything, any obstacles that she faced, like I mean, she was denied her diploma, she was barred from court, she was even ridiculed in newspapers, and they told her to give up, but she didn't. She kept pushing forward, and that perseverance, that persistence, and that determination kind of clicked with me. It embodies something that I want to embody in the future and
Thank
as of now.
you.
Thank you for that feedback. Anybody else have a specific question? Kathy.
So I'm curious as to what you think the best way for young people in your generation to learn about women's history?
Mm.
What can the generations ahead of you do to help people in your age group understand what women have done in the past and how they've paved into the future? What's the best way to reach people?
The best way to reach people,
Mm-hmm.
definitely. Okay, so as we know, our generation, my generation is definitely social media heavy. They're very internet heavy, and they do tend to have more of online interactions than in-person interactions. So probably the best way to reach them could be through social media, sending out emails, coordinating through schools, doing things in uh, partnership with schools, perhaps, maybe going and doing workshops or events where you just talk about um, uh, the women's heritage or women's history in schools, in libraries, just places that, people definitely frequent some more.
Stephanie, I don't mean to put you on the spot, but given to Ariana's point, um, um, I know that your Maryland Humanities is very assertive in putting information out there. So, for example, can this resource tool that we have tonight, how can that be used or spread to at least tell the story of Belva, if not other women in the future?
Yeah, I think that's an interesting question. And I'm going to look to Erin because I think a lot of it is our partnerships with our teachers. I won't kick it to you, Erin, but I know that a lot of the way that we communicate to the students is by sharing those resources with the teachers, because I think they know the best way to adapt materials to be what their students want. They know how to get topics in front of their students as well. And so really what we spend a lot of time doing is building those resources up and sharing them out with the teachers. And I think also, a lot of the educators around the state, they're looking at past projects for ideas and inspiration. So I think those are all really great ways. Sorry, my camera is being weird and it's focusing in and out on me. I apologize. But I think that that's one of the, the best ways is to support our educators who are out there doing really hard work and getting those resources to them, and then letting them decide what is the best form of use for making those available. I know it's a fine line too, right? We want to share information but not flood information because there's so much coming at them. So I think anytime where we can share past projects. I think a lot of teachers do look at who's done well at the state contest and kind of look at those projects as examples. And just making sure that we're visible to those teachers and catching those ones that maybe want to do History Day but haven't fully decided to bring it into a classroom, and kind of coaching them and getting those resources in their hand too, I think is really important.
Thank you.
Just add
Erin, can we put you on the spot? I love talking to teachers. So what do you think?
What I love about Maryland History Day and Arianie's topic is that they get to choose what they research, and it usually fits a passion that they have. So this is what I love about this is we get to share Arianie's passion, and I just love being their advisor because they come to me and they teach me things. Like Belva Lockwood wasn't even on my radar, even as a teacher. And so when she came to me with that, we worked through it, right? And we talked about it, and I encouraged her to find the right sources and make sure that she could write a paper on it, because sometimes they pick a topic and they can't find enough primary sources. All they have is secondary sources. And so then we have to take another path to look at a topic that's related to that or somebody else. And she just did a really good job of digging this out. And so I'm just so proud of her. Also, I'm proud of her for going out of her comfort zone with a paper. We talked about it. We weighed the pros and cons of doing another documentary, and it took a bit of convincing to try something new, but I think it really paid off, especially for this particular topic. So I think anytime students can share their passion, whether it's on social media with other adults, right? Because she's teaching us something tonight, or just with their teachers, I think that's an opportunity to share women's history.
Thank you. And it was funny when we were at the awards ceremony, Erin was there for the pictures, just like with her mom, but it was a proud day for them all. So that was fun to watch. So, Ariane, you've heard a lot of other comments. What other feedback would you like to add, either from Maryland, the comments from Maryland Humanities, or from Erin, your advisor?
Yeah, I just wanted to well, a couple things. Just wanted to add on for getting out there with Maryland history or women's history. I think definitely reels or like small videos on social media can definitely be helpful in terms of that. But yeah, as Miss Spars said, I do really appreciate the push to go do a paper, getting out and doing something new. It made me realize, how much I actually do enjoy challenging myself. It might not seem like it in the moment, but once you get back and look through that problem-solving process, I feel really proud of myself that I was able to navigate that. But yeah.
And so well you did. Kate, do you have your hand up again, or just didn't go down?
I didn't go down.
Oh, that's okay. Any other questions or comments? How about someone from the family? How did you view this process? What was your engagement? Jill, I see you. I'll get right back to you.
That's a great question for my mom. Mama, would you like to answer?
Yeah, hello everyone, and I'm so glad to see Miss Bailey, Erin, and uh, Stephanie, all of you being here. So one of my friend Teja is here too. So thank you all for being here and supporting Arianie. And yeah, so what I want to say is definitely, and I totally agree with Miss Parr that it was kind of uh like a roller coaster, I would say, because she's very comfortable with the documentaries because that's what she's been doing for a couple of years, and she got the award the first year on documentary, and she's like, okay, I'm going to stick to that. But then Miss Parr really kind of encouraged her to kind of, okay, just go ahead and try something new because there's always challenge, but you're going to really learn a lot. And she was definitely not happy, let me tell you that, because, and then she was going through different subjects as well, like 2 3 topics came up. So, and then finally I'm glad that she kind of really um stuck with her passion, the line that she wants to go, at least as of now, and she found an inspiration and she worked on this topic.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Jill Christensen.
Hi, thank you very much. First off, if you can't see me, it's okay. I'm on my phone. I'm not always using my phone for Zoom, but thank you very much for your research. This is fabulous to learn about someone I didn't know about at all. And, again, I think that it's so interesting the times that we're living in and the effort to erase women's history altogether, as well as women's leadership and leadership of people of color. That it's quite fascinating the times that we're in. Just today, I saw the announcement from Governor Moore, which is a short video clip about the semi-sesquicentennial of Maryland, 2026, the 250th anniversary, that is entirely beautifully diverse of all of the people to help make Maryland. And contrasting that to what we're seeing from our government right now, which is an entirely different picture. And so I think to keep bringing out these stories of historic past, and I know, it's a question about where's the Maryland tie, but bringing that forth, how very important. And just one little comment as far as the combination of video documentary and or short clips, as well as in research. It's been fascinating to watch media change over these past few years, whether it's Baltimore Banner in Baltimore that will have written pieces, but video clips that they run on Instagram related to the research, or then, of course, New York Times. So anyway, thank you very, very much. This is fabulous.
Thank you, Jill. Stephanie, did you want to make your comment out loud and maybe say a little bit more about that, or maybe what Maryland Humanities is doing?
Yeah, and I think it also really complements what Jill, what you just brought up as well, which is engaging more in videos. And I think that there's often this negative view of social media, and some of it is justified, but I do see so many really interesting TikToks and reels out there talking about history, and I think it's a way that students often first engage in some information. And so, when you're asking about how to reach more students, I think for a long time we thought about, well, posting on Facebook or sharing a history, but really it's being okay with being very short and very brief, and getting that out in front of them in a way that like allows that deeper dive and just kind of piques their interest. And I think it's something we are certainly still learning, especially at Maryland Humanities. We have some banked TikToks. That's a project that's kind of, we pick up and then we put back down, because it's hard to be relevant, and it's hard to get the views, and so you figure out, is it worth it? But I do think it's where more and more students are kind of starting their learning journey, and we need to really be thinking about how we get those materials in front of them and what we can do to learn those skills, or work with students to promote shorter videos that are really allowing them to take that first dive into history.
Thank you. Sarepta Mom, do you have another comment you wanted to make?
I just wanted to add with what Kathy, excuse me, was actually trying to bring up, as how the young generation can actually bring more people into this. So, I mean, we talked about TikTok and Reels and other social media things. I mean, how about just starting a youth history channel where actually the students who are really interested in history in support of NHD can actually work together and make that channel and spread it across. So yeah, that's something which I don't know, it might work out. I mean, schools and administration will be more to talk about it, but that's just an idea that came up.
One of the beautiful things is that in some ways we live outside of the school district. So that gives us a little bit more freedom than, say, their teachers in the school districts. So I think that's a great idea. I know there's a big group that have a Discord around National History Day, which, if you don't, Discord, again, not videos, we are going back to writing, but I know there is like a Discord group of like NHD students who love it so much, and it seems pretty active. I've tried to not go into that space because I want it to be for the students, which is the other, I think, challenge of like, it's like that you're trying not to be cool and just showing up in those spaces and pretending like what kids want, but also giving them those spaces to be creative. I think that's a really great idea of how can we connect all of those students together.
Thank you. Arianie, you've been kind of quiet lately, so any feedback from the other responses of this discussion?
I mean, I really like the idea of, starting a youth channel, but one thing that maybe you could consider too is since we're trying to get the information and outreach out to students or to the younger generation, why not have people from there help out with that? Because I feel like that would probably be they would probably be the ones who could best talk about or produce things that I don't know others would be interested in.
Kate, do you have another comment?
Well, Arianie, since you mentioned that, you want to be persistent, that might be something you might take on, is try it in your school, or as a subgroup or after school group or something. Because from what I gather, you really are liking documentaries and so on, but I'd say go for it. Make
And
it
Jill
happen.
Christensen did as well in the chat box. So there's a lot of support for
sorry,
that,
Jill.
for those
Didn't see
ideas.
that.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
All right. Are there any other questions or comments for Arianie this evening? Or Sally, I see that you're here. I didn't know if you had any questions or any comments you wanted to add tonight. Because you've been a long time supporter of women's history.
No, I am in awe of Arianie. We all come from somewhere and we all stood on somebody's shoulders. And I think I like the future. I like what it looks like, and I thank you.
I think we met in when was History Day? In May? Stephanie, was it May? Yeah. So
Yeah.
we all met in May. So we've been talking since May. But it was ironic in that not long after we met, I did not know of Belva either, which is embarrassing. I'm sorry, I did not. She's not from Maryland, but still, I did not, because I was a big RBG fan and all the people moving up from there. But what happened was that last summer, it turns out that my godson works at the Supreme Court as a clerk. And so here we are doing a tour. And of course, he knew I wanted to go see RBG and the women's thing. Well, and guess who had papers right there in the women's exhibit was Belva. And so I looked pretty smart because I had heard of her. And I said, no, I didn't know of her, but a high school student introduced me to her. So much for being a women's history expert. So as somebody else said tonight, each of us has so much to learn and there's so many stories to tell. So thank you for bringing Belva to us tonight. Any other questions or comments, or Arianie, any final last words or anything?
I mean, no, not really. I think this is great. I had a lot of fun.
She did a lot, she did a lot of work too. So we reflect the work both for the project and then also for making this happen. So we'll have this posted. The link will go out to you all. I will send the link of her research paper to the guests here, the guests that registered. And we have made almost enough money from this event that we will send it to, not send it right away, but send it to Stephanie for 2026. So just send me an invoice, Stephanie, and we'll go from there. But
Will be coming. But
yeah, I figured.
Thank you so much, though. It really does mean so much. And I think you all get to see what your support does and how it really goes to honor our students, and that they, get that money as well as part of their prize, as well as a plaque, and then also just the ability to engage in opportunities like this that maybe they would have never thought was possible. And I think that that's just really worth bolstering. It helps to support the program overall, but it directly helps to support our students who are doing the hard work. So thank you all so much. It really means so much.
I'll send the Zoom link probably tomorrow at this point, and you may share it. It's not copyrighted. You may share it with anybody that you think is important. And then Erin, I hope that you can get it into the school system so that Arianie's good work can be shared on your social media there, and other students will learn something, as well as the adults and the principals. So anything else? Okay. I'll turn it back to Kate for our good night, Kate. Zoom. Just a minute. We can't hear you, Kate.
Thank you so much to everyone for attending, and especially to Arianie for all your hard work and inspiration. We will help disseminate this information. I think it needs to be seen, it needs to be heard, and hopefully you may be inspired, Arianie, to try new things when you see how well this all turned out. So thank you and good night.
Thank
Thank
you so
you.
much.
Thank you.
Arianie, great.
Recordings off.
1 second. Good point.